Well, hello there. I would here to talk about, well, this time Sudan. It's a conflict that's been going on forever, as far as I can remember. I mean, when I was a boy, the Sudan conflict was pretty hefty and off and on since then, with a brief spell of peace under President Nimeri, but even that didn't last that long. The Islamists came in towards the end of his term and brought in Islamic law, and I think pretty much since then it's been at war one way or another. Now we have a UN Special Envoy for Sudan called Jan Pronk. What a name, unusual name. Pronk, Jan Pronk. And he addressed the United Nations saying that he could do nothing, that they could do nothing in regard to sending troops in or doing anything without the consent of the internationally recognized government, which is extraordinary. But true. But what does that mean? It means that, he did it in such a way to waste the opportunity to highlight the mess that is Sudan today. I think Jan Pronk should fall on his sword. He should resign. Not up to this mark as a UN representative for Sudan. This country is catastrophic. People are dying all the time. Get rid of Mr. Pronk. He should resign. He's wasting everybody's time. Anyway, meanwhile, the situation, you have two forces, rapid support forces and the Sudan armed forces, and neither of which are actually legitimate governments. The pair of them took over from the legitimate government in a military coup. And for some reason beyond comprehension, the international community recognizes one of the warlords, that's the General Burhan of the Sudan Armed Forces, and not the other. But the one that the international community recognizes is the one who is least willing to come to peace talks to bring an end to the war. I can't necessarily blame General Burhan. General Burhan is controlled by his generals. He's a puppet, really, a puppet leader. His generals are all Muslim Brotherhood. And, the other man, General Hemeti, runs the Rapid Support Forces, which also were part of the Sudan army, but initially formed as a militia group. And they have a lot of Bedouin-type Janjaweed people in their ranks, a lot of Islamists too. They're what they are. So two mass murderers leading two groups of men who are busy killing civilians and each other in the most brutal civil war possibly in modern times. Well, I don't know. One of the most brutal. There's so many. And, of course, displacing refugees up to Libya, across the Mediterranean, through France and to Britain, because a substantial swathe of the young men that come here are from Sudan, to the United Kingdom, So it's an issue. The rapid support forces are strong in the country. The Sudan armed forces are strong in the town. The rapid support forces are currently attacking El Fasher, which is the capital of Darfur region in western Sudan. Will they take it? Possible. The Sudan armed forces are holding out there. So we have this situation which is messy, and there's also a wish to extend the Sudan United Nations mandate, FSM mandate, the UN mandate for Sudan. I don't know that that's going to happen, but it probably will, I guess. I don't know. We'll see. So T and Burhan, these two warlords, are not governments, though they each have a rump pretend government in their wake. And it's an ideological war, I guess. There is no end for the presence of Islamists in Sudan. It's not that Sudan is not, even North Sudan is not an entirely Muslim country. There are minorities who are Christian and animist and so on. A lot of South Sudanese living in the north. A lot of the people in Dar, they're from all sorts of backgrounds, but the Islamists are the troublemakers, really. The fundamental Islamists are fighting. They need the fight. The warlords need the fight because it justifies their continuing existence. There is a focus now on a statement by what's called the Quad, a group of countries. That is Saudi Arabia, Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, or UAE, and the United States of America. These four countries have ganged together to deal with Sudan. Now, what's the thing about these four countries? Each one of them is a meddler, but the US meddles through sanctions, which doesn't help anybody in my view, but it is actually at last taking an interest. The Saudi Arabians and the Egyptians have been backing the Sudan Armed Forces for years, General Burhan, which is a curiosity when you think about the Egyptians doing that, because the Egyptians generally, traditionally don't like the Muslim Brotherhood, not the Egyptian government, but they back Burhan's generals, who are Muslim Brotherhood, because they're used to them, I guess, and because they have a relationship with them. They haven't got a handle on the rapid support forces. And then the Saudi Arabians back the Sudan Armed Forces because, well, they use their troops in Yemen and so on as proxy forces and mercenaries and that kind of thing. The United Arab Emirates backs the other side, the rapid support forces. I mean, these are the people that are keeping the war going, you understand. These are the real killers. The United Arab Emirates backs the other side, sends arms and so on to the rapid support forces. Because why? Because they hate Muslim Brotherhood. That's one of the prime reasons. And since the Sudan Armed Forces are avowedly Muslim Brotherhood, the rapid support forces are not. They're still Islamists, but they're not Muslim Brotherhood. The Emiratis back the RSF. You getting this? You got your head around this? I guess so. So this Quad group has issued a statement saying that they calling on external parties to stop fueling the war. They are the external parties that are fueling the war. You get this? They're calling on when they are the ones that are fueling the war. They're calling on external parties to stop fueling the war, so that's positive. And stating that the Muslim Brotherhood will have no role in the future governance of Sudan. Well, of course, Burhan and his generals, they've rejected that. They say, no. We want the Muslim Brotherhood to have a role in the future governance of Sudan. But it's assuaged, it's somehow appeased the Emiratis. So this statement from the Quad, from the external backers of Burhan and co. So it pleased them enough that they're sort of pulling back a bit from the war. That's a coup for Saudi Arabia. Clever little sneaky Saudi Arabia. It's a coup. It's a clever move getting this statement out because it weakens the rapid support forces. They're going to get less support presumably from the UAE. So an interesting time. Yes, there are other groups on the scene, Sudan Peace Corps and so on, civilian groups that are working for a United Civilian Front. We need that. There are events coming up. The Arab Union and the OAU, Organization of Arab Unity, or whatever it is, has a meeting with IGAD, which is a group of nations, including Britain, that have had involvement in Sudan, on civilian dialogue on 6th of October. Maybe useful. We need to keep civilian dialogue going. One of the ways in which we might be able to get some of these warlords on board, I mean, Hemeti is willing to come to peace talks. Burhan less so, because his generals won't let him. One of the ways in which we might be able to get them on board is to lift sanctions against these, as war criminals, against these various people, and do a deal. They'll be lifted against the various Sudan armed forces mass murderers. It might work. The International Criminal Court could grant an amnesty. Difficult though, because the International Criminal Court is just used to making trouble. I say making trouble. It's not making trouble if you believe in justice, but if you believe in peace, it's a problem. It's a stumbling block. It always has been. The International Criminal Court is actually itself under U.S. sanctions. Crazy, eh? Francis Deng, who heads one of the Sudan peace groups, believes in one country, two systems. I think that may be, it doesn't mean it in the way I mean it, but I think that might be a way forward for Sudan. So you have two generals vying for power, each representing a different constituency. Basically, the Rapid Support Forces representing the country, the Sudan Armed Forces representing the town, people dying, women being raped, the misery of a civil war ongoing, and starvation. How to stop the war? The army have made a few gains in Kordofan province, and they think they can move westward now, make some gains. Al-Fasher's in the west, Darfur's in the west. They think they can move. Like the relief of Mafeking, they can go and relieve Al-Fasher. I don't know. I think the troops in Al-Fasher are doomed to die. I don't think they can do that, but still. And because the RSF still think they can take Al-Fasher, and they've got them besieged. But the Islamists are a fact of life in Sudan. So we need a way forward. We need a better way forward for Sudan. Is it possible? I think it might be. It would be helpful if Britain took a role. Britain is the ex-colonial power and is much respected. If the present government in Britain appointed a special envoy for Sudan to go to, both sides, but primarily to go to General Burhan and the Islamist generals and offer them everything we can offer them in return for standing down. I'm just to come back to this word as part of an amnesty for them, and then we could have an end to this war. I think so. There's a possibility. Now is the moment to do something, and the country best placed to throw its weight in is Britain. The United Nations is incompetently led. America, it's played its hand, but it's going nowhere. Britain is the only country that could step in and make a change now. Make a change by making overtures to Satan himself, General Burhan. I think it's time. It's that, or we all sit back and watch the Sudanese knock pieces out of each other until it's the last man standing. They are unbelievable. Unbelievable. God grant peace on earth. We need it. Okay. God bless you. I hope this is helpful, or at least interesting. God bless.